All right, good afternoon, Lagos and the rest of Nigeria. Welcome to Rubbin Minds Live on Channels TV. It's another brilliant Sunday to bring you this brilliant conversation from Rubbin Minds and Channels Studios in, is it Lagos now or Ogun State since we moved? Anyway, it's good to be here. My name is Adebola Williams, and of course, I'm standing in for Ebuka Obiuchendu, who's unable to be on the show today, the regular host. Hello. Today on Rubbin Minds, we'll be talking the national confab, something that has been buzzworthy in the media in the last couple of weeks, something that has been important to a lot of people, a conversation that some are clamoring for, but from different opinions why people are clamoring for the national conference. Now that it's finally been called, people have opinions on how it should go, how it should run, how it shouldn't run, and what the outcomes will be. A level of clarity is still needed at the end of the day. But on Rubbin Minds, as usual, the show that leads the youth conversation. Today we'll be talking from the youth perspective. What do young people want? How do they want to engage with this conference? And what are the outcomes that they hope to achieve? Before we get right into the show, a few things that have been happening in the week that top the headline would be, one, the price of kerosene. It's funny how, sometimes you even forget, when you talk about fuel scarcity, many people can relate. And then sometimes you think that kerosene scarcity is not something we can relate to, but to see the mass of people who have actually been clamoring against, the new hiking price of 130 per litre for kerosene, shows that Nigeria is still a lopsided country, and people are still in their need, and which also, of course, brings to the fore some issues that we'll be talking about with the spend, on the national conference. Another thing will be the 9 billion contract scam, which the S1 speaker, the Major Bankole, has been cleared of. The court says that they find the EFCC couldn't prove, the allegations laid against him, and so he's been freed, from that crisis. It's amazing how many people in government always get that escape, that conviction. They just always get acquitted. It's quite amazing, And of course, another thing will be the move that continues to happen from party to party, and then the current 11 seats from PDP to APC. I think the Senate President has refused to declare those vacant. For whatever reason, we don't know, but he's refused to declare it vacant. And there is a gist that people get $10,000 to move from one party to the other. I'm laughing. Anyway, many more, of course. And finally, the biggest would be Stella Odua, who's finally been relieved of her duty, asked or advised to resign, and she's left the cabinet, amongst other ministers, Godstay Olubebe, Yedima Ngama, and Caleb Olubolade, who all four of them have left the cabinet just this past week. Mixed reactions, of course, have trailed Stella Odua's exit. People are wondering if it's the time to trail, if she shouldn't have left earlier, and so on and so forth. But the point is, she's left. She's made major grave mistakes in the office as public perception, and we hope that the administration will do their best to correct it going forward. We'll take a short break now, and when we come back, we will begin the conversation. Don't go away. Alright, welcome back. It's Rubbin Minds on Channels TV. Good afternoon again and welcome. The conversation begins. It's a national conference, and our topic today is what is the youth stake of this conference. Joining us in the studio is Atom Lim, who's a journalist and social commentator. It's good to have you on the show, sir.
Good to be back here.
Great. And of course, Wisola Abiola, who is also a social commentator, amongst other things.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. Yeah. We'll also be having, via the telephone, the president of NANS, the SA to the president on youth, Comrade Judy Magwa, as well as ex-president of NANS, of NYCN rather, Wale Ajani, who will be joining us via the telephone. So many strange youth organizations have come up since we've heard about the national conference. The organization for youth advocating for a national conference, the association of youth towards this positive confab. There's been so many associations coming up. And I'm going to ask you, Atom, do you think that you as a young person in Nigeria will truly and truly get a representation at that conference?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's indeed very sad that, you know, when things come up like this, it provides an opportunity for various groups and various people to sort of milk the system or get their share of the national cake, as it were. I sincerely hope that young people in Nigeria will be represented at the conference, but you know, there should be some level of pessimism, you know, because of what we've experienced in the past. But I think that for me as a person, I'd rather that young people remain optimistic and hope that we can engage those who are sort of representing us, and they can convey our thoughts and perceptions on the issues at the conference. So yeah, I'm a bit optimistic, even though there's a lot of reason to be pessimistic.
In terms of numbers, Bisola, do you think that 18 is good enough representation for young people in Nigeria, where how many percent now? Is it 60%? 65% of its population are young people. Do you think 18 is a good representation?
Well, I have a couple of reasons against that particular figure. Firstly, it's going to be a bit unfair for 65% of the population to be represented by just 18 people. And then we know that from what the Secretary General of the Federation, Ayim said, he said, decisions will be reached on consensus, and where they can't reach consensus, then it has to be 75% of the majority. So this is the same constituency that was practically cheated out of the constitutional review process. Most of the recommendations we made were not, were actually thrown out by the National Assembly. So if we have just 18 people in there, and then they have to have 75% majority at least before decisions are taken, it shows that the odds are against us. So no, I don't believe that the number is okay. I think it should be increased to actually reflect demographic realities. And I'm not saying that we should have majority of youth, but even if that does happen, I don't think it would be unfair. We need to really have a look at the youth representation and ensure that we're adequately represented at the conference.
Great. Now, talking about equal representation, Atom Lim, permit me, where are you from again?
I'm from Benue State.
Benue?
Yes.
Would you say you're a minority?
Yeah, in the political context of, of course, people would say we're the minority.
Okay, so looking at the picture of balance again, some have also said that the 90 slots isn't good enough. Now, I remember that when late Chief Gani Fahimi was clamoring for a sovereign national conference, he said that the primary duty of the sovereign national conference is to address and find solutions to the key problems afflicting Nigeria since 1914 to date. The concern is to remove all obstacles which have prevented the country from establishing political justice, economic justice, social justice, cultural justice, religious justice, and to construct a new constitutional framework in terms of the system of government, structurally, politically, etc. He then said that he was hoping that you would have the 790 something ethnic groups represented at the sovereign national conference. Now, with the current national confab, the Secretary General of the Federation says it shall last for 3 months and shall discuss any subject matter except the indivisibility and indissolubility of Nigeria as a nation. Looking at the context, for what late Chief Gani Fahimi was clamoring for and for what the federal government says they want to achieve, do you think that more numbers in terms of ethnicity, and balance with more numbers for young people would achieve what we really hope for with this conference?
Yeah, thank you. Before I respond to that issue particularly, let me take us back a bit to what Bisola was saying about young people being cheated out of the constitutional reforms. If you look at the composition of the committee that brought up the recommendations for this conference, it was a 30-member committee instituted by the president, of course, and all 30 members were adults. None was below 35 years of age. They were professors, senators, colonels, retired army generals, and the likes. Now, from that phase on, young people were cheated out of the national conference. And now we're saying whether getting 12, is it 18, whether it's enough, I don't know. Whether we have a position, I don't know. Whether young people will be represented, I don't know. I'm hoping that they will be effectively represented by even the 18. I'm not so worried about the numbers. I'm worried about the quality of representation as well. But just to take us back, if you look at the composition of that committee, you find that there's a fundamental problem that young people have been excluded, because even the recommendations that were made at the various meetings that were held preceding the presentation of the report, you find that the youth voice was not represented even at that stage. So that's that problem. Now, going back to the issue of whether ethnic groups should be represented and the issue of Nigeria's unity, the committee recommended that there should be no-go areas. You know, in the past, we've had issues of whether there should be no-go areas in terms of whether the questions of whether we remain together as a country should not even come up at all. This was, for instance, one of the things that President Obasanjo made sure he emphasized when he was organizing a conference of this nature. So the committee, of course, recommended that there should be no-go areas. But if the Secretary to the Government of the Federation has said that there is a no-go area, then it means that it hasn't taken that recommendation of the committee. And what it does mean, it means at the end of the day is that when we eventually go into the conference, if we go into the conference, you'll find that there will be disagreements, you know, at that stage, because a lot of people will be saying this, for instance, was a major issue that ought to have been discussed. And already the government has said, don't go there. So there's a fundamental problem. So if my people are going into a national conference, and when I say my people, I mean the people from Benue State, the ethnic groups from Benue State, they are going into a conference where the major issue, which is about whether we remain together as a nation for most people, is not going to be discussed. So it defeats the purpose automatically.